If you were on Twitter at all yesterday, you could not help but notice that the outrage culture is at it again, this time claiming that there are racial undertones in the descriptions of orcs in the Dungeons & Dragons game. Yes, basically, they looked at the description for these brutish, monstrous characters and immediately thought of minorities, and that people who created Dungeons & Dragons game, these Wizards of the Coast brand, are using dog whistle racist terms. Go figure. And on top of that, now they're dredging up the whole Tolkien is racist bullshit, and I cannot take it anymore. Hello, this is Mara Jade, and I'm here with another video, and this is an example. This is not the only tweet I saw, but this is an example. I got this screenshot from Weaponized Nerd Rage, because I was blocked by this person before I'd even had any opportunity to interact with her, but thankfully he screenshot this, and this is, and I quote, Katie Quixotics, saying 2 seconds on Google. A whole whopping 2 seconds on Google. Yes, Google. All of a sudden, you are now an expert on everything as long as you just Google it. We'll show you that Tolkien used heavily racist language to describe orcs, and that Wizards of the Coast based their orcs on Tolkien orcs, which to a thin extent, is true because Tolkien, his work, heavily influenced games like Dungeons & Dragons and by extension World of Warcraft. Now, that's not to say that those are the only influences, because if you were to look at the history of orcs, not just with Tolkien, but literature in general, they were around 300 years, 3 centuries roughly, before Tolkien wrote The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. He did not create that term, or at least that the name itself has been around. He just used that name and created the orcs as representatives of the brutality, the vicious nature of war. Basically, man's inhumanity towards man. Orcs, in Tolkien lore, the popular theory, or the popular reason for their creation, they were corrupted elves. If you knew anything about it, you would not say such stupid shit. She goes on to say, so no, it's not a stretch, there's a paper trail. Paper trail, obviously, like I said, on the internet, so it must be true. Never mind, a lot of it is purely subjective. Purely subjective based on your feelings, how you are reading into a text. That's it. No objectivity whatsoever. It is a rarity in this case, in this day and age. Sad but true. But she's using that as proof that Tolkien was racist. And you're all either incredibly ignorant, or your racism is behind a very thin veil. I love how she says you're all incredibly ignorant. Meanwhile, she's saying 2 seconds on Google. And she's claiming to be some sort of an expert. Claiming to be some sort of an expert on this whole situation with Tolkien. Alright? But I'm not going to go into my response just yet. I want to read this right here. This right here. Okay. Anyone who knows anything about Tolkien, like I said, would know that during his life, during Nazi Germany, one of the incredibly prejudiced, racist regimes out there at the time, wanted Tolkien to prove his Aryan heritage. Tolkien, the surname itself, is German, even though Tolkien lived in England. So, because the German High Command, wanted a feather in their cap and say, we have this popular author at the time, because Tolkien had written The Hobbit, and we want to show, hey, he is of pure Aryan blood. So they asked him to do that. To basically also prove that he was not of Jewish heritage. Here is his response. He does it more intellectually and sophisticatedly than I would have, but here's his response. He says, Dear Sirs, thank you for your letter. I regret that I am not clear as to what your intent is by Arish. I am not of Aryan extraction. That is Indo-Iranian. As far as I am aware, none of my ancestors spoke Hindustani, Persian, Gypsy, or any related dialects. But if I'm to understand that you are inquiring whether I'm of Jewish origin, that's what they were inquiring, of Jewish origin, I can only reply that I regret that I appear to have no ancestors of that gifted people. My great-great-grandfather came to England in the 18th century from Germany. The main part of my descent is therefore purely English, and I am an English subject. Which should be sufficient. So basically, That should be enough. That should be enough. I should not have to prove this, but he goes on. I have been accustomed, nonetheless, to regard my German name with pride and continue to do so throughout the period of the late regrettable war. He's talking about, he's talking about also the Great War, World War One, and this is also, he was talking about World War One because this is written in 1938. A year prior to when Hitler began taking over Europe. World War II began September 1st, 1939. So this is nearly a year prior to that event. Alright. Okay, in which I served in the English Army. I cannot, however, forbear to comment that if impertinent and irrelevant inquiries of this sort are to become the rule in matters of literature, then the time is not far distant when a German name will no longer be a source of pride. Your inquiry is doubtless made in order to comply with the laws of your own country, but that this should be held to apply to the subjects of another state would be improper, even if it had, as it has not, any bearing whatsoever on the merits of my work or its sustainability for publication, of which you appear to have satisfied yourselves without reference to my abstammung. They basically, prior to printing his work in Germany, wanted him to prove that he was of pure Aryan blood. Pretty much. I trust you will find this reply satisfactory and remain yours faithfully, J.R.R. Tolkien. So, in a much more intellectual and sophisticated manner, he essentially told what would become the German High Command to fuck off. To fuck off with your racism, fuck off with your wanting me to prove I'm not of Jewish extraction. Pretty much. In so many words, that's what he told these people. And now this outrage culture wants to paint him as a racist yet again. Yet again. They want to paint him as a racist. So, but like I said, I'm blocked. I am blocked by this woman. I blocked her back because I don't want her talking shit about me in the near future. But here's my response to this woman. I thank Weaponized Outrage for the screenshot because I was blocked prior to this, as I said. And I said, oh wow, a whole 2 seconds on Google will make you an expert on how racist, quote-unquote, Tolkien was. Maybe actually crack open a book and you will see he was anything but. You people recycle the same garbage and it's getting boring. And when I say crack open a book, I mean actually crack open a book. This is Tolkien, a biography. Sorry, the light's shining on it. Tolkien, a biography. It's a relatively thin read, so it could be pretty quick. Nowhere in this book, or anything like that, indicates Tolkien was a racist. But you are reading so far down into this, and you're so far down the rabbit hole, that it is just mind-boggling how you were able to function in society anymore. How you were able to do so, I have absolutely no idea. But I'm getting sick of it because I grew up loving Tolkien. I am a woman who has been a nerd her entire life, knowing predominantly in this culture it is made up mostly of men, and I don't give a shit because I love talking about this topic. I love talking about Star Wars. I love talking about DC. I love talking about everything. So please, take your fake outrage. Oh, and by the way, I will also add this, that they cannot seem to fathom how insulting it is that they, primarily white people who are doing this, are feeling offended on behalf of minorities. They are taking away minorities' agency, whether it be based on skin color, like, for example, black people, Asian people, so forth, gender, women, or sexuality. They are taking away those people's agencies to think for themselves and feel offended if they choose to feel offended by saying, you are not intelligent enough to do so, therefore I will feel offended for you. And they cannot seem to grasp how insulting that is. But at any rate, that's just my 2 cents on it. Like I said, I'm getting tired of it. It is getting boring, and I'm just so fed up at this point. But at any rate, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. If you saw the tweets that were going around on Twitter yesterday, what are your thoughts on them? Do you agree with me? And you think that, oh my god, these people are so far down the rabbit hole. Please, sweet, just take us now, sweet oblivion. Or do you think maybe I'm going a little bit overboard in my, in how upset I am? Let me know down in the comments below. I will try to have as many videos as I can out this week. I'm in the final stretch of my spring semester, so I'm coming into the last final assignments that are due before the semester is out in the next 2 weeks. But at any rate, try to get those videos out. Try to maybe have a live stream this week. Depends on my internet. I'm probably going to be on live streams here or there during the week. But at any rate, this is Mara Jade, and I'll catch you on the dark side with another example of outrage culture, as inevitably will happen. Take care.